If your boyfriend doesn't work, how long can you feed him? A year ago, Rahul quit his job as CEO because he wanted to be a writer. His girlfriend named Sonu was extremely supportive of his decision and offered to give him a year. But Rahul wasn't only at home watching Tom and Jerry cartoons, but also lying on the sofa eating and sleeping. Every day, after coming home from work, Sonu felt extremely tired. In the morning, she had to get up to prepare breakfast for him. When getting off work, she also had to clean the house. However, she didn't see that Rahul had any intention of doing anything. Sonu felt so hopeless with such a life. But Rahul didn't notice that abnormality. Until one day, Sonu said goodbye to Rahul. She really couldn't stand it, because Rahul was lying on the sofa every day and didn't do anything. She bought a lot of pens and paper for him, but he didn't use them. But after listening to his girlfriend's complaints, Rahul asked only one question. Let's eat Chinese food in the evening. What Sonu really couldn't stand was that Rahul never understood what she said. Love is a compromise, a sacrifice, a sacred thing. It's not the endurance. After that, she ignored all the insistence from Rahul. She still drove away. Until she left, Rahul threw 10 volumes of novels he wrote on her picture. Actually, it wasn't that he didn't write. Because he wasn't still satisfied with the work, he didn't want to show it to her yet. Rahul was very angry and kept breaking things in the house, and pointed at the picture of his girlfriend and said, "You leave me because I don't compose. So I'm going to prove it to you." The first story involved compromise. Before that, there was a man named Ravi. His academic record was excellent. But because his father couldn't pay the tuition, he just had to work as a miner. He had a gentle wife. She often helped him wash his hair and his back, and she took care of the family's daily life. But Ravi criticized his wife for not being educated. He was always sarcastic and despised his wife. When his son's academic performance wasn't good, he immediately said it was because his wife wasn't educated. Ravi was chosen as the union leader. That day, at the construction site, there was a beautiful female manager coming. She was Annie. And Ravi had never seen such a girl before. As the union leader, he had a chance to shake hands with Annie. When returning home, Ravi kept looking at his hand that was holding Annie. He smiled happily. When his wife wanted to be intimate with him, he pushed her away. He even held his right hand and smiled to himself, because not long ago, that hand was shaken with a beautiful girl. Ravi even decided not to wash his hands for a year. His wife wanted to be intimate with him, but he pushed her away violently. Ravi made an excuse to be busy. Every day, he wanted to be with Annie. The two of them were quite close to each other. That day, his wife picked up his son from school. She accidentally saw her husband and Annie shopping at the mall. But she didn't go to expose them, she just quietly cried. Ravi didn't know why his wife was depressed. He felt a bit guilty, so he bought a new dress for her. The next day, his wife got up early to make breakfast as usual. At this time, Ravi received a phone call from Annie. She said she wanted to eat rice with grilled meat. "Okay, I'll tell my wife to do it," he said. Then Ravi lied that he had to work overtime. After that, he took the lunchbox that his wife prepared to give to Annie at the company. At this time, his father fell and needed to be taken to the hospital. But when hearing this, he wasn't worried at all. When Ravi's wife took her father-in-law to the hospital, she saw her husband and Annie. He was indeed an unfilial son. He also left his wife and son, so she didn't want to care about him anymore. So she decided to change herself. She was determined to go to school and take care of her family at the same time. Half a year later, because of the top achievement in the academic university. So there was an article written about her. After seeing this, Ravi angrily took the newspaper back home. He asked his wife, "After all, what do you want to do?" His wife said that her education was actually higher than him, just because she was afraid that he would have low self-esteem. She had to say that she couldn't go to school. At this moment, Ravi thought about the past when he was very heartless towards his wife. Finally, he thought again. He refused Annie's phone, then hugged his wife. This was the first story Rahul wrote that involved compromise. He thought that Ravi abandoned Annie, who was both beautiful and highly educated, to choose an ordinary wife. That was a kind of compromise. Rahul was excited to go to his ex-girlfriend's company, to tell her that he already started writing books. He hurriedly dragged Sonu to go on a date with him. But unexpectedly, as soon as he came out of the office, Sonu immediately closed the door, and also said that whoever let Rahul into the company, she would fire that person. Rahul was extremely angry. Sonu seemed to have forgotten. A year ago, he turned down the opportunity to go to Paris for further training. Thanks to that, Sonu was able to successfully stay at the company. Sonu said he didn't understand love as compromise, as sacrifice, as a sacred thing. Therefore, the second story he wrote would involve sacrifice. There was a couple in a traffic accident. when the man saw that his girlfriend was blind, so he immediately left her. A year later, the girl recovered her eyesight and was able to continue flying the plane. She saw her ex-boyfriend on the street. There were also two beautiful girls walking beside him. Indeed, he was a bad guy. However, after a while, she discovered that he had to use a cane to be able to walk. It turned out he never abandoned her in the past. He donated his cornea to her. This was the second story Rahul wrote about sacrifice. After writing this story, Rahul became famous on the internet. Thousands of fans online were waiting for his next work. At this time, Sonu came to the house to find him and told him she was getting married. Rahul didn't expect that although he succeeded, he still couldn't hold on to his girlfriend. So he wrote the third story. It was related to him and his girlfriend. This time, he wrote that he was originally a successful and famous writer. He and his girlfriend were extremely happy. Girlfriend's father was a successful businessman. He hoped Rahul would make a breakthrough in his career. Then he would agree for his daughter to marry Rahul. But his girlfriend didn't care about her father's objections, and also ignored all the criticisms of people around. She was determined to stay with Rahul. While this story hadn't been written yet, Sonu prepared to get married. Rahul interrupted her wedding and begged her to give him a chance. But unexpectedly, Sonu ruthlessly kicked him out of the wedding. Rahul was so heartbroken that he crashed into someone else's car. So those people intended to hit him. And at this time, he really didn't want to live anymore. He hit his head on the car window, which caused a lot of blood. "Come and hit me," he said. When seeing this man holding a rock, Rahul immediately ran over and hit his head on that rock. After that, Rahul went to jail for fighting. 2 years later, he was released from prison, and he just found out that the story about him and his girlfriend had sold 5 million copies. And it was just missing the end of the story. So after that, Rahul held a fan meeting. At this moment, he seemed to see Sonu sitting under the stage. Her hand was still holding a baby. He was heartbroken to say that the end of the story was that the male lead went to prison, and the female lead was always waiting for him. He said that in the first story, it wasn't that the minor gave up the rich beautiful girl to choose an ordinary wife. Actually, the wife was tolerant and forgave her husband's mistakes. She is the one who compromises. The second story wasn't that the boyfriend sacrificed his eyes, but that the girlfriend initially overcame race and prejudice to have the courage to be by his side. And in the reality, although Rahul gave up his position because of Sonu, but Sonu had to take care of him for a whole year. However, she couldn't wait for his efforts and success. He thanked Sonu for making him understand what love was. After the fan meeting ended, Rahul sat sadly on the bench. He suddenly saw Sonu walking towards him. It turned out that in the past, when she heard that Rahul was in prison, she cancelled the wedding. So the two of them finally got back together. The movie comes here. I just want to say that if a girl volunteers to grow up with you, you must remember to cherish her.